We're getting high tech over here, y'all. Welcome to No More Mondays. I am your host, Angie Callen, and this is the podcast where we believe you can have a thriving career or business and an amazing life on your terms. This episode is brought to you by The Modern Coach, my platform for helping coaches grow those thriving businesses. So if you are ready to elevate your client delivery and feel confident in your process, go check out the Master Job Search Coach certification. We're now enrolling our next cohort. You can get all the info at themoderncoach.co. Now, let's get back to Mondays, everybody. Today, we have a guest who is basically my blonde-haired Monday-themed soul twin doppelganger, even down to the shared inability to keep houseplants alive. Alyssa Nolte is the CEO of TrueView and host of Taking Back Monday. She's also a serial entrepreneur and someone who swears by curiosity, resilience, and the occasional dog photo to keep things moving forward. She's helped scale startups, lead innovation, user experience, and build things from scratch, usually without a compass point, let alone a map. We have connected over our mutual mission to make Mondays suck less, but this episode is going to be so much more than that. We're going to talk about embracing quirks, failing forward, and letting go of the idea that there is a right way to build business or keep a succulent alive. So grab your coffee, get your dead fern out of the way, and let's get into it. Alyssa, welcome to No More Mondays.
Hey, thank you for having me. I am excited to join the mission.
Yes, No More Mondays mission, Take Back Mondays mission. We could call it all sorts of things.
Yes, we're very much aligned in on what we are trying to do.
And, it's funny. One of the things I love about podcasting is meeting other podcasters. And for all of you out there, that's how Alyssa and I got connected, was through part of this podcasting community. And when somebody was like, hey, you have a podcast called No More Mondays, you need to talk to this person who has Taking Back Mondays. And then it turns out that we literally have like all of the other things in common. So let's talk a little bit more about entrepreneurship. You are what some people call an accidental entrepreneur. I attest that's more common than not, but I want to know what made you take the leap into startup life instead of kind of going that traditional route.
Yeah, I truly cannot believe that I am an entrepreneur. So I always joke, if I ever give like a graduation keynote or write a book for like college students, it's going to be something to the effect of like why you should take an unpaid full-time job right out of college and turn down that offer with the salary and the 401k and the paid time off and all that good stuff. Because that's kind of what I did. So I had 3 offers on the table, one from an agency that was going to pay me well and give me benefits and do all of those things, one from a nonprofit that was going to change the world and that I could be a part of and like really tugged at my heartstrings. And then this other from this third company, a pre-revenue startup that had never made $1 in their life. And they had no salary, no wages, no benefits, no paid time off, nothing. All they could offer me was 100% commission based only. So I would eat whatever I killed. And so naturally, like anyone would do, I turned down the full-time paid offers and I took this unpaid opportunity, basically like an unpaid full-time internship right out of school.
It's clearly the logical choice, says everyone out there who has run screaming from commission only sales jobs in the past.
I like the audacity that I had at the age of 22 blows my mind now. Cause I think if you had presented me that same offer in this moment, I would at least hesitate, right? Like I would at least wonder to myself, like, is this the right choice? And like, at the time I was like, no, I really want to do this one. And I had a conversation with my dad about it. And he was a successful, traditional, worked for a large enterprise company seller. And I said, hey, here's this thing that I'm thinking about doing. What do you think? And he looks at me and he says, you can either go take those normal jobs, work your career, get to that 6-figure salary and make it, and always wonder if you should have taken that opportunity. Or you can take this opportunity with a startup and you can either 1, get in on the ground floor of something incredible, or 2, come away with all these lessons and stories that is going to make you just that much more attractive if you go back to a conventional career. But either way, it's a win-win for you. And I got that permission almost to go say yes.
From traditional dad of all places. Thanks, Dad.
I know, like the dad who wouldn't let me study psychology in college because he knew I didn't want to be a shrink. So therefore he said you have to get a degree that makes money. So I added marketing. The one who wanted to make sure that I went to school and try to minimize my debt as much as possible. And I think maybe he had felt that pull because he and I are very similar. I think he had felt that pull too, but didn't feel like he could walk away from a career when he has a family and a house and bills to pay. And his point was like, you're used to being poor. You're in college. You don't know the
Yeah.
difference. You don't
When
have any
is there a
responsibilities.
better when is there a better time in life to maximize audacity? And you're almost too naive to know, anything other than crappy health insurance or parents' health insurance
Right.
and very little
Ramen,
money. So
ramen
why not
noodles
throw
and
caution to the wind?
exactly
Yeah.
ramen noodles and clothes from Goodwill. And I didn't know any different. And it was one of those things though, where I got into this company and I had to learn so many things the hard way. And
Mm.
no one had ever done it before. They were pre-revenue. They had never sold a thing. And so I always tell people, like, I talk about it now, and hindsight is all rose-colored glasses. But like my first year working, I made $1,200, not a week or a month. The first year is how much I made
Total.
from that company total. And then
Well,
the
and for
next
those of
year,
you that can see me, I'm smirking over here because Alyssa just told us, I'm going to connect some dots for those of you that may be like driving and didn't get the dots, that this is a commission only role at a company that's pre-revenue, which basically means there is no foundation of proof that you're ever going to take a dollar home. And in the first year, hey, you actually turned yourself a little bit of profit.
I know it was a big win. I was pretty excited about it. And then the next year I 10x'd it and I made $10,000. And then the next year I tripled it and then suddenly I was at 30. And then finally by year 4, I made what I would have made if I would have just taken that normal job in the first place. And so if you're just
Mm.
looking at like the opportunities that come along with the money and the dollar signs that go with it, I made a really stupid decision, right? If you're just looking at that like hard fact, hard number.
Mhm.
But the opportunities that I've had and the growth that I have now and the freedom that I have now and the skills and the relationships that I have now simply because I said yes to that one little opportunity at the age of 22, I have so much more than I could ever have gotten from school, from an MBA, from an executive program, or from working my way up in a Fortune 100.
You more than made up for the opportunity cost loss was more than made up for in non-monetary experience and knowledge gain, but also that then channeled into more exponential financial returns that more than made up for that component of it as well, which I find to be
Exactly.
so interesting. This is where it seems to me that curiosity became more important than experience in a way.
I wish there was a way for me to truly screen people for jobs on curiosity because that's all I really want is I want people around me who aren't afraid to say, "Hey, I don't know how that works, but I can't wait to go find out." Or,
Mhm.
"Hey, I know that we're doing it this way, but have we considered doing it that way?" And then go off and almost like hyper fixate and obsess over that in the moment to come back and say, "Okay, I've done all the research, I've thought it through. I really have thought about this more than just like a passing thought in the night. I've dove in. Here's what I think we should do, and I stand behind it."
I also think that there is, not to dog on corporate America out there as two people who are certifiably unemployable. However, I also think there's more space to allow for curiosity, to even encourage it, because
Yeah.
that's where innovation and your next big idea is going to come from if you give your teams the autonomy to have it. So it's just as important of a skill to be able to identify it as it is to allow people to use it.
Right. And unfortunately, there's far too many organizations and in my podcast, I talk to people who traditionally are working in more quote unquote corporate roles and are
Mhm.
trying to create environments where people in a traditional 9 to 5 still feel valued and like they enjoy their Monday mornings, which unfortunately, guys, I think we're currently losing the fight, so we need to pick it up a little bit. And all of those conversations are around this is the type of person that they want. And everybody wants this type of person. And yet we've created these structures and environments and rules and processes that mean that those people will slowly suffer and die and then eventually become like you and me and become
Yeah.
certifiably unemployable.
We want them, the out there, we, well, like want them in theory.
Right. We like the
But
idea.
yes, and conceptually, we're supposed to want that. So we hire it, but then kind of put them in a box or keep us under our thumb. That was, I experienced that kind of feeling like um not diminished is not the right word, but like squashed early in my career where there just was, I'm also in an engineering field, which is like so traditional, so hierarchical, so male dominated. And then here comes like extroverted, people loving, can do work really, really fast, wants to get involved in everything. Angie, and they're like, what the hell do we do with you? And so they didn't. And I left. I'm curious, and there's many moments in hindsight that I realized there were just seeds being planted. So I'm curious for you, kind of what was the moment where you were like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I now choose this.
So we grew that original startup, the one that I joined right out of college with two college professors. We grew it for about 7 years. And then we got the ask that every entrepreneur who starts a business is like dying for. Someone offered to buy our business. And like we were so excited. We were so like, yes, we did it. We achieved what everyone talks about as being like the pinnacle of success in entrepreneurship. Someone
Mhm.
has bought your thing. And so we were acquired and we merged with this other company and we did work with them for a while. And I will say, I think we merged a little too fast. The deal happened so quickly. Like we met them in like September and by December it was like closed. And so it just happened a little bit too quickly. And I think if we would have all slowed down, we would have had a better experience because we didn't really know each other well enough to know how we would fit together. And so I was working at this company and I was getting exposed to a lot of different things. So from that perspective, it was really, really great. Like I got to work with different clients, I got to work in different things. And as someone who is like a multi-passionate, multi-potential type person who wants to learn everything, that was great. So I learned about adoption and software sales and enterprise sales and all those things. Um, but there were some things that were happening that I would call like big enterprise culture seeping into a smaller organization because everyone who had worked there had previously worked for like a Fortune 100. And suddenly, someone who's very creative and likes to break things and move quickly had to get permission to send an email to my own clients and had to have it reviewed. And when I wanted to get a new piece of software because I'm an early adopter and wanted to try something, I needed, permission to do that. And
Mhm.
I really chafed really hard under other people kind of micromanaging and controlling me and my conversations and what I was doing. And so when it was time for me to bounce, when that moment came, I went to them and I said, "Hey, I'm so grateful for everything I've learned here. I'd like to at least become an independent contractor so I can go do my own thing, right? Like I don't want to leave my team behind because my thing that I built for 10 years is sitting right there, but I want to go like do my own thing." So I became an independent contractor. I started this podcast called Taking Back Monday um, because I felt really disillusioned with work. And I was that person who woke up every day like, I'm going to work 70 hours this week. It's going to be great. I'm having so much fun. I love what I'm doing. And then I came into this environment where it was a
Yeah.
job and I had never worked a job before. I'd only ever had my business. And so now I'm moving back into it. I'm about 2 years in back into re-entering the world and unlearning some of those bad corporate habits that I picked up in the time that we were acquired
Yeah.
and trying to find myself again. And that's what the podcast was for. It was an exercise in combating imposter syndrome because I needed to figure out who I was again. And that's what the podcast was designed to do.
Perfect. Because guess what we're going to talk a little bit more about, which is the podcast. This is exactly where I wanted to go, but I have to make the point that it was really interesting that kind of without me knowing that part of your story, what inspired or what was part of the inspiration to start Taking Back Monday was exactly what we were talking about and being kind of forced into an environment where your curiosity and your autonomy and your ability to innovate and be nimble was kind of taken away. And it's just really interesting what you realize is important to you when it's gone. And so, as you've kind of started to get into your Taking Back Monday conversations with, which, by the way, newsflash, going to be on it. So you'll get this conversation from the flip side, which will be super, super fun. What have you found that Monday, like, what do you think Monday represents for most people?
It represents bending to other people's expectations at the detriment of your own desires. And everyone that I talk to says to me, like, I know that there's a better way. I know that it doesn't have to be this way. And I just get up every morning because I need to pay rent. I need to have a job. And, if I leave this and go do something else, then what if the grass really isn't greener? And there's so
Mm,
much fear around it. And
yes.
yet we all know it's not right.
I think fear is like it distills down to that word. And I would love to know, based on your experience and your conversations on Taking Back Monday, how do we start to reframe that fear and reframe the relationship that most people out there have with Mondays?
So I am a firm believer that so my whole concept is like we're saying goodbye to the Sunday scaries, right? And hello to the new future of work. And one of the things I started exploring, and I didn't expect this kind of theme to come out, but the idea that the Sunday scaries are a choice that is made. And I don't think of it necessarily like it's not a choice in necessarily the way that you are thinking of it. Like a lot of people are like, "Oh, you're making a choice, just change your mindset over matter." And that is part of it. But I believe, and what I'm finding in my conversations is that the Sunday scaries are your leader's choice. And that if you have a leader who has the courage to create an environment where people are truly seen and heard and feel like they have the authority and the encouragement to do what it takes to do great work, then you will build a high performing team. You will be more successful than anyone else. And I believe that leaders have the mandate to do so. And so that is my experience in those conversations, especially in people who aren't traditional 9 to 5s. There are good leaders out there who want to do it right. Unfortunately, we're currently outnumbered.
The word choice is so powerful. Also, we must pause. And if you did not think yet that Alyssa was my blonde haired doppelganger, let's remind her and all of you out there that I publish a weekly newsletter read by over 5,000 people called Combating the Sunday Scaries, which is meant to push you into thinking about things differently and encouraging you to make the choice, because just like it is a leader's choice in what kind of culture they create and how they insulate their team from any cultures they can't control, it is also our choice to stay in it. It is our choice to stay in the fear. It is our choice to sacrifice the agency that we have over our careers. And I feel that most people out there don't realize we have that choice and we have more agency than we exercise or than we think that we do. And a lot of that is because of how the corporate and the working world has changed. You can be a serial entrepreneur starting at 22 now. That wasn't the case even 15 years ago, definitely 25 years ago when I graduated from college, right? And so I love that you're just like, this is why I got so excited when I was like thinking about what we're going to talk about, because it's like I get to shout into the void, but somebody else is with me, and everybody out there gets to hear things I say in this different kind of term. And so I want to talk a little bit more about that agency, that choice piece. How can we start leaning a little bit more into that? Because it's hard to just burn it all down. It's hard to stand on the other side of the fence and go, is that greener? But how can we maybe take small steps towards that?
I think you have to first start by being able to really identify those moments when you are actively making a choice to not make a choice. So if you are
Mm-hmm.
just following along in the process and not really recognizing those moments where there was a fork in the road that maybe was the path less traveled, you have to recognize those. And it might be small. It might be as simple as protecting your time and protecting your boundaries and telling someone that, like, hey, what is my purpose in this meeting that you've invited me to? And if they don't have a purpose for you, saying like, okay, thank you so much for the invitation. Is it okay if I go do something else because that's, one of my priorities right now? And I actually witnessed someone do that this last week. And they got out of this 60-minute meeting that they didn't need to go to because the person who invited them realized, oh yeah, you really don't have a role here. This really isn't a good use of your time. But they invited them and they pushed back and they protected their boundaries.
Answer is always no if you don't ask, is the short answer, cliche to that one. But I think it's small things. And I'll kind of even go more foundational, is that you have to know what those boundaries are. And in order to know what your boundaries are, you need to know what your priorities are and kind of what you value, so that you can, one, push back in the right places, not push back in the wrong places, but also know what kind of environment is going to support that way that you want to live. And again, that's a choice. Not making a choice is a choice. But then once you're ready to start taking agency, you've got to do a little work to define what's important to you so that you can choose where to exercise it.
Yeah. I mean, if I wasn't looking at my own day to day and saying, okay, I have no opportunity to be curious or to create or to try new things or to break things, and there's no tolerance for that. If I didn't look up and say, these things are important to me, these things make me happy, I am going to bed every Sunday night dreading the next day because I don't have these things, then I would have never been able to name what I actually needed, which was the ability to go build something and break something and try something. And if you can't name it, then you can't ask for it.
There's the theme. If you can't name it, you can't ask for it. I love it. Okay, so let's related, unrelated. We're gonna move to another thing I want to talk to you about. One of the things in your bio is you say that killing houseplants keeps you humble, which yes, amen. Humble, confident, anxiety-ridden mess, standing on top of the world, making no money, right? That's a day in the life of an entrepreneur. And I don't think we talk quite enough about the emotional roller coaster and the choices that go into that side of the kind of, let's say, professional track. So I'm curious, how do you manage all of the ups and downs of startup life, CEO life, entrepreneur life?
It is not for the faint of heart. It is not for the weak, because I feel like so many times you pull up your LinkedIn. I don't know what your LinkedIn algorithm looks like, but my LinkedIn, my For You page, whatever, is all of these people talking about how they're so successful and they followed this framework. And then overnight they managed to, they went from making $0 to making $10,000 a month overnight because of this simple trick, hack, secret, things that Google won't tell you, that kind of stuff. You're not going to learn this in school. And it's really hard to see those things and think to yourself like, well, I'm not making $10,000 a month and I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that. And what you have to realize, and what I had to realize, is that kind of storyline is a story. And it is a performative part of the brand that they have created. And I am not a person who could ever have a brand like that. That's just not who I am as a person. I'm open, I'm transparent, maybe too honest sometimes. And when I'm thinking about that, what I would call the audacity, is I went through a phase this last year where I was told myself, Alyssa, you need to have more audacity. You need to be more audacious. You need to say things and they might not be quite true. And you need to stand up and scream from the rooftops and talk about yourself and talk about what you're doing. And it felt so inauthentic to who I was that it actually made it worse. And so I stopped doing that because it's just not who I was. And the minute I stopped trying to be other people is when I started to find success, when I started to find opportunities, because people were connecting with me authentically instead of the me I was trying to pretend to be on TikTok.
Oh, okay. You've hit a nerve. We are now on yet another soapbox together, because I see, you live in startup land and get that messaging. I live in coach land and get that messaging. And one of the things that frustrates me so much are here's how I grew my 6-figure coaching business in 30 days. Here is the, no code marketing strategy that you can use to get 50 high quality clients a month in your door. Here's how you can go sell $1,000 offers in the next 7 days. It is part of their brand, but part of that brand is like shock value marketing, which I can't do. I don't do shock value poke the bear content, because as soon as I put anything that's like hyper controversial out there, I don't sleep for 3 days because I can't deal with the comments and I can't deal with the frustration, and it just doesn't feel authentic. And I also believe that shock value stuff is promiseless, right? It's unfounded promises. And in the old days of startup and the old days of new coaching businesses, maybe you could see that kind of success, but now it just takes work. And damn you, Tim Ferriss, for the stupid book called The 4-Hour Workweek, because I think even he would admit, damn him for naming it that book, because it gave people a complete misconception on what it is to start, grow, and be successful in business and entrepreneurship. And you also have to, there's another point where defining it makes sense. And so I'm glad I'm not the only one who's A, got a feed like that, and B, feels disdained by it.
I don't know, man.
So
You
let's
gave
give,
me a pretty controversial LinkedIn post about the zipper merge that I'm still like thinking about as I'm driving.
oh,
So, so
that is
anyway,
as controversial as I get. There you
yeah,
go.
it's okay.
And
That is as controversial.
yesterday I had to zipper merge, and some jackass in a big old truck behind me wouldn't let me in, and I got pissed off and thought about you and that
Right.
post.
And crying. Yeah. And crying about it.
Yeah. So let's give, and I am a huge fan of the fact that, like, if you operate authenticity, the success will come. And so maybe that is a tip in and of itself, but I would love, let's give everybody out there, startup founders, entrepreneurs, even professionals who are trying to make that choice. Let's give them real, useful, not shock value marketing advice. What is it? What do you want to tell everybody out there?
Okay, so there's two things here. I think you have to, one, figure out what you want to be known for. And when you do things in your life, I want people to look at whatever you did and say, "Oh yeah, that tracks." Right? So like if one week I am selling zippers, since we just talked about zipper merging, if one week I am selling zippers and the next week I am selling blue jeans, you might say, "Oh yeah, that tracks," right? But if one week I am selling zippers and the next week I am selling high ticket consulting services and the next week I am selling LinkedIn guruship and all of these things that are my hyper fixation and interest of the moment, that doesn't fit. It doesn't track. So figure out what are the things that you do in your life that are truly authentic to you and figure out what fits into that overall narrative and track so you can be consistent, because people do not like inconsistent experiences.
Oh, well, also, as I'm talking to somebody who, by the way, we haven't gotten into your professional stuff, and that'll be for another conversation, but operates at the intersection of user experience, consumer insights, and marketing. So think about the experience and think about, in a way, the perception and how your audience is going to feel. Are they going to feel confused? Are
If
they
they
going to
feel
feel
confused, it's game over.
Yeah, exactly. Confused buyers aren't buyers.
Right. Confused buyers look and
Uh,
then move on. They kick the tires and they head out.
Yeah. And if you're selling zippers 1 minute and balloons the next, you're also confused. And guess what? Also not going to buy from you.
Right. Right. How can I trust your expertise if one day you sell me zippers, but the next day you're a balloon expert? Like, what are you really an expert on?
Exactly. Totally. Okay. So now I have another very important question based on shared common interests. What is your favorite go-to random trivia fact that has absolutely no value but brings you immense joy?
Oh God. Okay. So my husband says that I know 10% of all random things. So you ask me really anything and I will give you some random stupid fact about it. So I when we were, God, how old are we? We were in between our first kid and our second kid, and we got one of those random. We got by one of those things. We got a random like come stay in a timeshare. Just go to a presentation and whatever. So it was at like Disney World or somewhere like that. So we went to Disney for a day, and as part of that, we did this back tour where you got to go like under the park and behind the scenes and all of those things. And it really is one of those moments where, like, if you know anything about Disney as a brand, they have so many good things that you can learn from, not as like worrying about, Mickey and Minnie Mouse, but the things that they talk about with their businesses and their employees.
I mean,
And
customer experience 101 through 501, Disney.
exactly. But they also do have some really interesting leadership facts. So if you go to Disney World, I want you to walk around and I want you to look for people who have badges and are carrying these little grippy stick things. Those are their senior managers. Those are the people whose job it is to make the decisions and manage, and they carry these little grippy things so that they can pick up trash. Because on the first day of orientation for every single employee, they say, okay, who here was assigned to custodial services? And the people who are actually assigned to custodial services raise their hand. And they say, okay, everybody raise your hand. Everybody here is assigned to custodial services. I don't care if you're in engineering, if you're in management, if you are a face character. If you see trash, we expect you to pick it up. And they expect that of their leaders too. And so that's one of the things I love the most about understanding and seeing like real leadership in action. Say what you want about Disney, they're a large corporation, they're not perfect, but they expect even their most senior VPs to walk around with a trash poker picking up trash.
Okay. So, Alyssa, you just took this to a new level because I was expecting something along the lines of Colorado has more ghost towns than populated towns,
Okay, well,
which
we
is
do. I'm
actually a
in
true
Iowa.
factoid.
We have 3 times more pigs than human beings in this state. So is that kind of
now,
what you were looking for?
now, now we're at pub trivia. But I love that you actually gave a fun little factoid that's got value, right? Everybody at Disney, regardless of their level, picks up trash on their first day. And there are many learnings I would like to give all of you from that, from the fact that everyone is equal, to there is nothing above or below you, to now you know who a senior manager is at Disney. So that is a fun fact. And also, I need to make sure you come and play pub trivia with us because Jim is the guy that knows the other 10%, about 90% of the useless things in the world.
Perfect. We will dominate. We will win. You will know random things that you never really truly wanted to know.
Yes, you will. And as long as there's a music round, I will be useful. Alyssa Nolte, where does everybody find you and follow along with you, your wisdom, and your podcast and all the things?
I am prolific on LinkedIn. Come hang out with me on LinkedIn. That's where I keep everything. I know I'm supposed to have like, oh yeah, go to my website, go to this, go to that. My website is there. It's not updated. So come to my LinkedIn, come hang out with me. That is the reality of an entrepreneur. And I would love to connect with you. I will add you as long as you don't immediately send me a sales pitch into my LinkedIn connection inbox. But I love to talk to people. I love to have conversations, and I really want to change the future of work. It's time to take back Monday.
It is time to take back Mondays. No more Mondays,
No
everyone.
more
Look at
Mondays.
this partnership. There's so many things that are going to come out of this, including a side rant about pitch slaps on LinkedIn in mails. But that is for another day. For all of you out there, thank you for tuning in with us. We're not quite done yet, so don't go away. But I do want to remind you that sometimes all you have to do to get started is be curious and make a choice. And it will oftentimes get you exactly where you need to go. And Alyssa is a fantastic reminder of that fact, and that success doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be polished. There's a humor, humility, a little data, and some dead house plants go a long way. That's why she and I get along. So as we kind of wind things down, let's give everybody one last little pearl of wisdom. What is your number one belief that you've let go of to help you take back Mondays?
I have to do everything. That is the number one thing that I have let go of. I am one of those people who wants to do everything. And I always tell people it's not because I'm not bad at delegation because I don't believe that other people can do it. I am bad at delegation because I am the only one allowed to be a martyr. Like, I am the only one allowed to work 70 hours and to do all of the things and to pull an all-nighter. And my employees and my team have to have like cushy 32-hour jobs. And I let go of it because I finally had someone who said, I want to help, and you are killing my growth by not allowing me to do so. And it was one of those moments where I was like, oh my God, you're right. I am killing your growth. I am hurting you. And that immediately changed everything for me. So I started letting people do things, even if I wouldn't do it that way, even if I didn't fully understand what I was asking them to do, even if it meant they had to work a full 40-hour work week in order to make it happen.
Martyr is that's because we hear so much about most of the time when you hear somebody say that is a good belief, because most of the time when you hear somebody say, I don't have to do it all, and I finally realized that it was more about control.
Oh yeah, no,
Then
it's not about
it
control for
was
me.
compassion, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to do all this because it's my job and I wouldn't want them to have to do this. And so I'm going to fall on the sword for it. But you bring up such a good point of what are you keeping from them in doing that? And so serve your people well, and you will in turn serve yourself well, especially if all of that is built on a foundation of authenticity.
Hell yeah.
I love this so much. Take back Mondays, no more Mondays, y'all. How's that for a theme of your week? As we wrap things up, I want to challenge you to think about the quirky, the unexpected thing that keeps you humble or is calling you to make a choice. If you need a little help with it, you need a little accountability, drop Alyssa or I a comment or a comment here on this chat, or drop us a message on LinkedIn. She and I both hang out there a lot, and we would love to hear from you. Once again, I am Angie Callen, and this has been an amazing episode of No More Mondays. Alyssa, big thank you to you for providing a lens into your world and being that scrappy, satisfying, equally a humble and silly person in my world and everyone else out there, and all you're inspiring us to do. I will catch all of you next week for another edition of No More Mondays podcast. Have a great week, everybody.